Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Regardless of your religious beliefs, I hope you have a spectacular holiday. May you and your families be filled with peace, love, and happiness over the next several days. With that being said, Christmas is also a time for movies. A lot of families go see films together during this festive season. Being that I'm very invested in the film industry and want good films to succeed, here I am to share my recommendations for what your family should see this holiday season. And with that, I've got to be real here. Most of the stuff that's come out in the past couple weeks has either been really forgettable or just plain bad. I know that's obviously a very hot take considering that my taste widely differs from my audience, but hey, part of the reason why I make reviews is because I want to encourage people to spend their time and money wisely. I'm just looking out for your best interests, that's all. So let's get into it then. The first December blockbuster I'll talk about is Jumanji: The Next Level, which is the third or fourth movie in this franchise depending on who you're talking to. It is, however, a direct sequel to Welcome to the Jungle, the likes of which takes much inspiration from the formula Home Alone 2 rolled with. That movie basically used the exact story structure of the original, repurposed the same story beats, and added a couple of new things here and there to make it at least somewhat different than what came before. Jumanji 3 does pretty much the same thing, except the gimmick this time is that not all of the characters are possessing the same avatars in the Jumanji game world. Therefore, both Jumanji: The Next Level and Home Alone 2 are fast-track productions to capitalize on everything that made their predecessors lightning in a bottle successes, for better and worse. I guess the difference then is that Home Alone 2 was still fun and unique enough with its subtle differences that despite how closely it resembles the original, I can watch it and have as much fun. In fact, sometimes I prefer to watch this one, specifically because of the New York setting, how hysterical the traps are, and then this glorious scene.
I love you. Cheeks, Bony Bab, Cliff.
But where Jumanji: The Next Level fails is that literally nothing in it is memorable. Indeed, it is one of the laziest, most boring, and uninteresting movies I have seen all year. Instead of trying new things with an old formula, for the most part they simply repeat most of what happened in the original. For most people that will be fine due to how much they really enjoyed Welcome to the Jungle. I wasn't that big of a fan of that movie, but I thought it worked decently enough for what the filmmakers were going for. Doing more of the same will satiate the masses, and that's fine, but I was personally hoping for a lot more than simply being taken on the same adventure with no surprises or effective tweaks to the formula. Most of the jokes ring hollow, the characters don't go through any meaningful development, the villain is laughably lame, the action scenes are forgettable with unfinished CGI, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that The Next Level has one of the worst setups for a sequel that I have ever seen. Seriously, it makes the post-credit scene of Venom look like an Oscar-winning short film by comparison. I expect most families will be okay with this movie, but beyond my own distaste for it, I don't recommend that you see it on Christmas for the simple reason that you shouldn't spend an egregious amount of money on it. It's the same thing you watched 2 years ago, regurgitated back at you with subtle changes that don't really make a difference at all. If you're already fixated on seeing this with your family though, at least wait until after the holidays so that you pay a cheaper rate. Spending an arm and a leg is not worth it for an experience that barely improves on the original, if at all. But I think the one movie we can all agree on being bad is, no! Everything you've heard about the Cats movie is true. I really don't know if this was the best or worst theater experience of my life. I mean, I enjoyed hearing some random dude burst out laughing ironically sometimes, and then hearing the roaring noise of TIE fighters coming from the theater next door, interrupting an incredibly melodramatic solo number. But be that as it may, this is foolproof evidence of how one can have a solid idea, but then crash and burn due to horrendous execution. I apologize to the very talented Andrew Lloyd Webber, theater kids, and any fan of the original Broadway musical by saying this, but Tom Hooper's adaptation of Cats appeals to the worst aspects of musicals. It's all flash, all theatrics, and abso-freaking-lutely no basis of support for anything happening on screen. When you have a sung-through musical with 2% normally spoken dialogue, you better be able to pull off telling a story through song and dance. But no, Cats is a monotonous barrage of nonsense where the actors would sing lyrics that sounded like gibberish since they were often drowned out by the orchestra. It got boring really fast. It had some positive aspects with its colorful cinematography, fascinating production design, and pretty much everything Jennifer Hudson was doing, but none of it could compensate for the fact that Cats is all music and no story.
There's no story here.
And what's worse is that the human-cat hybrid things are horrifying monsters with a disturbing lack of anatomy. Well, aside from awkward knot boobs jiggling on Rebel Wilson's body, horniness straight out of a softcore furry fetish, and the ultimate result of a Lovecraftian nightmare, all in a PG-rated assemblage of Oscar bait. Great. Please trust me when I say that you should not take kids to this. I was already incredibly embarrassed to be sitting there alone with other people in a dark theater, but if I had kids with me, I would have been as blue in the face as Violet Beauregard. I'm so proud of America and that consumers are wisely letting this movie get wrecked at the box office. but I would strongly suggest not being one of those people, like me, who actually does go see it. Otherwise, I tried watching that Netflix blockbuster 6 Underground, but I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes. I was willing to give Michael Bay a chance on this seemingly wacky action movie, and indeed it was wacky, but not in the ways I hoped it would be. The first sequence of the movie is full of so much dreadful humor, unnecessary gore, and incompetent editing that I was just burnt out and didn't want to continue. If you want to keep your sanity, I would suggest not wasting your precious time on this either. And finally, it really pains me to say this, but even the 9th and final installment in the Skywalker saga was kind of bad. I will obviously have a lot more to say about the Rise of Skywalker once Justin and Jared join me for a spoiler-filled discussion next month, but for now, I will say that this was the last straw. Now that the sequel trilogy is done, I honestly think that The Rise of Skywalker rounds out what has been an extremely inconsistent story that feels much less of a singular vision than a series of products made by a marketing firm. I'm happy for all of you that enjoyed this, but I just couldn't. It's another one that I would simply suggest putting off until the tickets are more affordable, considering that theaters will charge you full price on a holiday. Might I suggest some alternatives though? If you haven't already seen Knives Out, that would be an excellent choice for a holiday film. I saw it for a second time this past weekend with my wife, and we both had a great time together. It's an immensely entertaining film that families should be able to enjoy together, at least if the kids are a tad older. I haven't seen the Christmas Day releases Little Women or Uncut Gems yet, but reviews would suggest that both would be excellent choices as well. Little Women would be for the families, and Uncut Gems would be for all of you lonely, hard-edged adults out there. But in the end though, I just hope you have a
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.